Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Tania, and I am hosting today's live stream. We are sharing live to YouTube and on Facebook as well. And I can already see so many lovely new faces, people joining in from Connecticut, from Canada, from Sweden on both Facebook and YouTube. My goodness, so good to see everyone. So my name is Tanya, and I am live from here in the UK. It's 8:30 in the evening over here. And if you could give me a quick thumbs up and let me know that you can hear me and see me clearly. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to keep an eye on the chat as well. We have someone who's, I think it's Lydia, who's keeping an eye on chat as well, who will be answering any questions that I miss. Um, oh, lovely. So you guys can hear me and see me fine. Thank you so much, Gil. Yeah, I know. I haven't been online in a while. I've had a baby. She's 6 months old. Her name is Alina, and I'm a bit rusty here today, but let's see how things go. And hopefully that we can get everything going quickly. So what I'll do is I'll swap my camera around, and then I will show you guys what I'm working with. And everything that I am working with today uh, will be linked in the comments as well. And oh my goodness, 95, it's too hot. Well, it's just starting to cool down over here, which is kind of nice. It was 17 degrees centigrade over here. I'm not sure how much that is in Fahrenheit. Sorry. Thank you so much. So, today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to make at least two cards. And if we have time, I can squeeze in a third. But let's see how we go and how things go. And so what we're going to be doing is we're working with Quaint Blooms. This is the stamp and die set that we have together. This is a 4x6 stamp set. It's an outline stamp set, and it's got a matching the die set as well. And Altenew is, of course, really, really well known for their beautiful flowers, the layering flowers. But I really fell in love with this one as well. It has a really folk art kind of feel to it, and it's beautifully outlined, which means that it's great for watercoloring or for coloring in with your alcohol markers or with your any of Altenew's coloring mediums. So if you guys, as Lydia has probably shared in the chat as well, if you share uh, the um, the live stream, then you will get a chance to win a $15 gift certificate. So make sure that you share them and also chat to each other, grab a drink, and we'll have hopefully a nice time. So what I'm going to do now is, so we're going to start off with the first card, which is the one that's going to take a little bit longer. So let's see how it goes, and then we will see whether we can squeeze in a third card or not. So I have this stamp set here as well. This is the dotted pinwheels background stamp set, and I am absolutely itching to get my hands on this stamp set because I love backgrounds, and you can easily line it up as well if you wanted to build it up on a larger surface like a scrapbook as well. So to start off, let's take the stamp set out. Don't you just love the smell of new stamps? Or am I the only weirdo who just loves to open new stamps and just smell them? It's just something about new stamps that just makes me giddy with happiness. And what I have here is, let me set this to the side for now. And I'm already making a mess, but that's fine. That's okay. And what I'll do is, let me place this on my background. And I'm going to be doing some heat embossing. And at this point, if you wanted to, what you could do is you could put some, oops, I've already gotten water on my paper. I'm going to switch this out because we don't want embossing powder sticking to that, do we? So because we're doing some heat embossing, if you wanted to, you can put your anti-static tool all over the page. And let me just see if I can lay this down just right. So I'm just making sure I want it positioned just so. Just gonna put my magnet there for now. Lift this up. And I'm not using an anti-static powder because 9 times out of 10, if I'm not touching my cardstock too much, I can get away without using an anti-static tool. Because if you store your embossing powders in its bottle and touch your paper as little as possible, then you might not necessarily need an anti-static powder tool or something like that. So what I'm doing is I'm using embossing ink, which is clear, and I am just covering the whole stamp, even though I'm just stamping on part of the panel. I'm inking up the whole thing. This cardstock panel is 4 by 5¼ inches to fit on an A2 size card. So just having a look. When I was younger, for some reason, I used to, these days you have Mod Podge and you have, mediums and things like that. Because I was born and raised in Pakistan, you didn't have those kinds of glues. You used to have something called Movlith, which was basically white PVA glue. And I used to hate the smell of that. But when I got older, and every time I smell it, I am reminded of my childhood crafting activities, just making sure that the whole thing is stamped. And let me just lift that, make sure that I'm happy with that. And I'm going to grab a scrap piece of paper, again, making sure not to touch my paper too much. I'm going to take my rose gold embossing powder and just liberally cover the whole cardstock panel. And that will be the moment of truth to know if we have inked it well enough. Just going to give it a gentle flick. And perfect. Look at that detail. Just look at that detail. Oh, I can't wait to heat set this because that's always magical. So let me set this to the side for now. And I'm going to put the powder back because, knowing me, I am super clumsy and I will probably end up spilling it all over the desk. And I'm going to put the cap on it as well because you never know. Can't be too careful, especially when you're doing lives. So let me set this aside for now, and I'm going to heat set this. And what I'm going to do is I am going to, because this is such a fine image and I don't want any of that embossing powder flying off, I'm going to heat it from underneath. So it's always very easy to see what part I've missed that I have not heated properly, because it goes shiny when it's melted. And honestly, I never get bored of this. Look at that shine. How beautiful is that? So this is the dotted pinwheel stamp set. And the embossing powder I was using was rose gold, because I absolutely adore rose gold. Given any opportunity, I will wear rose gold jewelry. So that's heat set. And I'm using fairly heavy cardstock, which is why it hasn't warped so much. If you're using cardstock that you're finding is warping with your heat tool, then try heating it from both sides, because what usually happens is the fibers of the paper shrink with the heat. And when you heat it from both sides, then it kind of evens out. And if you wanted to, you can also put it under something like a heavy book to flatten it out. So we've got the background ready to go. And what we need next is we need our flower. So I want to heat emboss that as well. So if I bring back my stamping platform, we don't need this for now. These sentiments from this dotted pinwheel stamp set are just gorgeous, and I really want to use at least this one. Here's to strong women. May we know them, may we be them, may we raise them. And this is especially like special for me right now because of my daughter. Still feels very strange saying that out loud. So what I'm doing is I'm opening up the Quaint blooms, and I'm going to be using the large flower image from the set. And take this out. And let me just lay this down. This isn't the wet one. Good, I discarded that one. So we want to do some more heat embossing as well. Just going to put my magnet down here so that it doesn't move, just in case I want to. I need to re-ink or re-stamp my image. Just inking my stamp image up and just stamping that down. Just making sure that I'm getting the full image. Thank you everyone who's been sharing. So I've just stamped that down. Just sometimes if you just angle your paper in the light, you can sort of see where if there's a spot that you've missed. So just to make sure, I'm just going to re-stamp that, because we want to capture all of that gorgeous detail from this flower. So I've got a bit of a shadow going on there. That's because I was naughty and I probably didn't clean my stamp set from last time I played with it. So I'm just going to put my scrap piece of paper underneath. I don't use any plastic trays for embossing powder, because you don't want to introduce any more static in it, because embossing powder is basically just finely ground plastic, and when plastic and plastic meet, obviously that's going to create more static. So just going to give that a gentle tap, and that's pretty good actually. That's going to look so beautiful. Heat embossed. Just going to give a slight flick. And there's a few stray bits here and there, but I am not too worried about that. And again, repeat the process. Put the embossing powder back. and put the lid on the embossing powder because I'm clumsy, and we're going to heat set that as well. So there's that, and again, look at that gorgeous metallic finish, and we've got that done. And now, while I have my stamp on there, just to prepare ahead, I think we'll do that stamping afterwards. Let's do this card first. So I'm going to die cut this out, and to die cut this out, you will need a die cutting machine. If you just wanted to cut out just part of the flower, you would have to, you can use the mini blossom, but this is slightly wider than the plate on the mini blossom. So I'm just going to take out the matching die. It just makes it so much easier having the matching die for these stamp sets, because fussy cutting can be enjoyable, but sometimes you just need the matching die, because they're just designed to cut out just the right amount of a white border around the stamped image, and I think that gives it that perfect finished look. I'm just lining it up. Excuse me if I bump the camera with my nose. Just making sure that's lined up. And just put that down with some low-tack tape. And there we have a perfect die cut flower. So I'm just going to put my die cutting machine to the side. We might need it again. So now we have our background, and we're going to do some simple watercoloring. And what I'm going to do is I am going to use some water, and we're going to be using the Autumn Festival watercolor brush markers. I am absolutely obsessed with these. I love them to bits. I would pretty much use them on anything and everything if I had half a chance. So I'm just grabbing an acrylic block, and what you can do is you can go direct onto your image and do the coloring however you want. But what I'm going to do is I am going to be using the artist brush markers as well. This is the full set, so you can see that there's a variety of widths and sizes and thicknesses that suit everyone. So this is the number 1 fine one that I'm using. and I quite am feeling like I want to do like autumny kind of colors on this. So I've just grabbed the orange cream, and if there's any colors that you like, you can just buy the refills, which are available to buy individually, and you can just use those as well. But it's nice to have these brush markers because there's a ton of different techniques that you can do with them. I like doing calligraphy with them, and I like making marks with them as well. So I have yellow ochre and orange cream on a acrylic block. And what I'm doing is I'm just lightly diluting it because I just want to do some light shading as well afterwards. Because when you dilute this, you can get like a more subtle effect, and then you can add more of the color afterwards. So I'm just gonna drop this like here and here while the surface is still damp, and then you can see that it gives it some slight dimension. Let me just hold it up. There you can see that it's giving it some slight shading there. And I'm going to do that again. So I'm just going to stick to some simple colors. You can make it as detailed as possible. And because this is heat embossed, it kind of helps me stay inside the lines as well. It's a beautiful outline stamp, and I absolutely adore this. Do any of you have this stamp set in your collection? Let me know in the comments if any of you do. Or do you have something similar that you can use? It is a fun flower image. I love it. It's just got this folksy kind of feel to it, like hand-drawn sketchiness to it. So I'm just blending out where I feel like it's dried out a bit. Again, just adding a bit of dimension. And then I'm going in with the yellow ochre, just diluting it a bit, and just going to do these. And this can be a really relaxing kind of activity as well. And I've just gone in with the clean brush, and I'm just pulling that color up with the clean brush to give that shaded kind of effect. So I'm just going to do that again. Just take some of the color, go halfway up, roundabout sort of there, and then clean my brush. And while it still has a little bit of water in there, just drag the rest of that color up like that. And then you get that gorgeous kind of blended effect. So I'm just going to continue doing that. And what I like to do is, I often say this in my workshops and lives that I do, is that I I'm especially more conscious of it now that I don't have as much time to craft to myself as before. So what I like to do is I do some stamping beforehand so that I already have some stamped images ready to go. And in another session, when I have a few minutes, I'll sit and maybe die cut the stamped images. So I'll take my little mini blossom downstairs, and while I'm sitting in front of the TV, and if I have a few minutes to breathe, I just sit there and do some die cutting. And then at another point, I'll bring my watercolor markers down, or my watercolor pan set, or the woodless watercolor pencils, and just sit and quietly do some coloring. Because even though we have this luxury of, an hour here right now to just sit here and do some really nice coloring and finishing like a couple of cards in one session, sometimes we just don't have that luxury. So it's definitely all right to just, find some time here and there and just get in your crafting fix. Just for a few minutes here and there. It doesn't have to be like a whole hour, because sometimes we just don't have that whole hour to ourselves. And then that way you can get in your little creative fix. And it's like creative self-care. And that's one of the things that I just I was thinking to myself a couple of days ago, oh, I just don't have time to, sit down and craft. And then I remembered that I need to take the same advice that I give to others and just be kind to yourself, and not beat myself up about, oh, I need to be doing this, I need to do that, I want to do this, oh, why I just don't have time. So instead of like beating myself up and feeling frustrated, I thought, why don't I just take my own advice and just make a few minutes, a few pockets of peace for myself, and just do some crafting for myself. So I love how that turned out. See, that was just me just using one color and just pulling it up and just dragging that color along, and we've got a gorgeous shaded effect. So I'm just going to quickly do this one as well. I'm going to keep this one all dark, and I'm going to take some of that orange and just drip that towards the edges there. So you don't have to just use the same color. You can use different colors as well. And that gives it that lovely kind of tone on tone effect. And while that's still wet again, just take that and just dab that there and let the color move organically on its own. And these watercolor brush markers, I just love them because of how highly reactive they are to water or any kind of liquid that you add. So again, while that's still wet, just dab it down there and it just moves up by itself. I've got another clean tub of water here as well, which you can't see. So again, and I'm being really quick about this. I'm not paying too much attention, because I know that the embossing powder will contain all of that beautiful pigmented color. So I'm just letting the markers do their magic. I just adore how highly reactive they are. Do any of you have any of the sets of the watercolor brush markers? Just having a quick look at the comments. Good afternoon. So nice to see you, Sue. Thank you so much. Hi, Jomara. Hi, Cheryl. Thank you so much to everyone who's been sharing. So I can see that some of the colors just bled over there, and then what I'm doing is just with a clean paintbrush with some water on it, I am just putting it there and then lifting off some of that color from there, because it doesn't really matter, but it was bothering me. So that's just one way, just to show you that, that's one way you can lift the color off there. So let me just I'm gonna leave some of the areas white, just to give that lovely sharp contrast. And then for the green, I'm going to keep that simple as well. I'm using just green, which is also one of my favorite dye inks as well to use. So I've got just green here, and I'm just going to pop some aquamarine as well on the side, because I am loving how these colors are just moving in together. So just diluting that, because this is very, very concentrated pigment. So I'm moving on to this flower because this one has dried a bit, so I'm pretty sure that it won't move on to my flower. So I am just sort of moving it here and there, and then clean my brush, and then just use water just to pull that pigment across. Thank you so much, everyone, for your really kind comments and for joining. I was honestly feeling a bit nervous about coming on after such a long time, because I just had to check all to quickly log on to check that I remembered how to do everything. And then I'm just picking up some of that aquamarine as well. And I'm just going to dab it here and there just to give that touch of shadow. And again, the pigment is just moving on its own. How beautiful is that? And then again, picking up that. This is like, you really don't need a lot of this because it's so highly pigmented. Honestly, a little goes a long way. And then again, just going in with a clean brush and just pulling that color towards the edges just to fill in the leaf. And just cleaning my brush because sometimes it can get bogged down with a lot of pigment on there. And you would honestly get a lot more better blended effects if you use the Altenew watercolor paper as well. And I am no expert. I will be the first one to raise my hand. I am no watercoloring expert. But these markers make it so easy to pretend, at least for me, that I'm a fairly all right watercolorist. So again, just going in with that clean brush and just pulling that pigment and then just applying just drops of the blue where I want some shading. And I feel like that needs something. So I don't want to introduce too many colors, but we'll stick with the same family. So I've got cotton candy here. Let's do blue actually in the centers. I've got a diluted version of the aquamarine because that's going to pop really nicely against that orange, the orange cream. Oh, I think that was an excellent decision, if I should say so myself. I was going to leave this white, but as always, I got carried away. But that's okay. I am just adding some. Honestly, Zay, you could just keep going on and just keep working on this as much as you want. And at this point, I'm just enjoying myself far too much. Can you guys tell how happy I am right now? But here's that flower, which didn't take very long, and it's embossed, so it's contained that pigment really well. Ooh, that could have been dangerous. I put my watercolor on top of my embossed panel. Oh dear. That could have been dangerous, but we are okay. We are okay. So I'm just going to set that aside. What do I need? Yes, we need a stamp sentiment. let me get a sentiment from the pinwheels. So I want to use this one. Here's to strong women. And honestly, without strong women in our lives, where would we be? So I am dedicating this to all strong women that I know, and to all the strong women who have helped me get to where I am right now. Let's stamp this with obsidian pigment ink. And of course, I have managed to create a giant mess, but that's okay. So I'm just applying really light pressure first, just to see if I've messed that up. Oh, that's actually perfect. Perfect. And I'm just going to clean up my stamp and put that back, because small stamps have a very pesky way of going walkabout when you least know it. So I'm just going to put my stamping platform to the side. Because this is pigment ink, this might be slightly still damp, so you don't want to smudge it. So I'm just going to quickly zap it with my heat tool. And if you wanted to, because it's pigment ink and it stays open for longer, you can use clear embossing powder on it as well. So let me just grab my scissors and just really roughly cut this out to put on my background. Let me just cut out the whole thing, and then we can do all our fussy cutting. Who agrees with me that Altenew do some of the best sentiments around? Seriously, they're just so thoughtful, some of them. And there's always something for every occasion, especially difficult ones. And so many that are so empowering as well. And I love them because, you know, I do other things other than just card making. I do a lot of mixed media art journaling as well. And I easily am able to use the stamp sets in my art journals and in my scrapbooks as well. So we've got the sentiment now. Now we'll assemble this. So I have a top folding A2 card, and I'm going to grab my bone folder. Oops. Nearly put that in the ink. So let's fold that down. I think if anything, a bone folder is an absolute game changer if you're a card maker. Honestly, the first time I used a bone folder, I was like, oh my godness, why have I never used a bone folder before? What does the complete sentiment say? So the complete sentiment says, here's to strong women May we know them, may we be them, and may we raise them. How beautiful is that? And so I'm just going to put this to the side, and we're going to assemble our first card. And the second card would have to be pretty speedy, but we can make it. So I've got the dimensional foam tape here as well. So let's quickly assemble this. So 1, 2, 3. And I just love how easy it is now, just making sure that the card opens up the right way, because so many times I have stuck my panel down the wrong way up. So always make sure. See, I've made enough mistakes so that I think that's basically why I made mistakes. I made the mistakes on purpose so that I could tell you guys. That's exactly why. It's not because I'm clumsy or forgetful. Oh dear, it'll be our secret, right? You guys won't tell anyone. Yeah. So where do I want to put this? Oh, that looks beautiful. I love it. We'll just overhang it just a tiddly bit. Oh, I love that. And just grab a small piece for the sentiment. But where do we want to put this? Where do we want to put this? I think over here. I like it right over here. So we just overhang it a bit, so we don't need to use this second piece. And let me grab, I've got my tape runner here as well. Best tape runner ever. Honestly, best tape runner ever. It's repositionable as well. But then once it's stuck down, it stays put. So there's our first card done. Now the second card, let's be speedy and see how quickly. This might be some kind of world record for speedy card making. So it'll be a 1-layer card. I'm talking fast now as well. So let's put that down there, and we grab our and what I'm going to do is we're going to overhang the stamp set a bit. Shall we go like that? I like that. Yes. Yes. Oops. Like that there. And we've got that. And then we'll do the sentiment as well. So I'll just grab a sentiment from the Quaint Bloom. So you've got some, sentiments that you can't go wrong with. How are you? Thank you. I love you. Hello and hi. So let's go for hello. And I'll put that in the top corner there. Is it the right way? Yeah. Just making sure that it's the right way. And then I am going to take my obsidian ink, pigment ink, my favorite ink for sentiments and outline stamps, basically for everything. I mean, I probably sound like a broken record, but I simply can't use any other ink pad now for fine detailed images. And put the cover back on the ink pad, because otherwise I might put my whole hand in it. So let's lift this and see how we got everything. Oh, missed a spot. This is why we have stamping platforms, so that if you mess up, you can just go back and press it again. Yay! And just like that, you already have a card that, you know, you got this set up already. You could make multiples. You can sit down and just cut your panels out, and you can just quickly just make a whole batch of them in one go to send out, to give it as gifts. So this is ultraviolet. This is gorgeous, and we're going to mix it with ultramarine. And this one I'm going to keep pretty simple. Again, just grabbing, let's grab a fresh pot of water. Treat ourselves, shall we, to a fresh pot of water. I've stopped using mugs to use for my watercoloring because I always end up dipping my my paintbrushes in my mugs of tea. And it always makes me really sad because I love tea. Then you end up having paint flavored caffeine, which in theory sounds nice, but doesn't taste very good. Trust me. I have done it for you guys, just for you guys, so that you don't have to experience it. So again, you can go back and you can fill in as many details as you want. I'm just keeping it nice and simple and letting the stamp set do all the shining. Just do the center as well. How are we doing for time? Oh, we still got 10 minutes. So I can just leisurely go in and just add as many details as I want. Doot, doot, doot. And you could even use, like, put some gemstones on there as well. This has been one of the most relaxing lives I've done because I just adore watercoloring. And I always, forget about it. And then every time I sit down and I do some watercoloring, and I'm just so relaxed and so zen, and I loved it so much. And I always wonder, why don't I do more of this? Why don't I do this more often? So just going in again, doing some really rough watercoloring because I think it kind of suits this stamp set as well. And just doing some partial leaf colors there as well, just for a hint of color, keeping it fairly monochromatic. And if you wanted to, you could do as much shading as you want. But for this one, I'm keeping it fairly flat because this is just cardstock and it's going to start warping if I add too much water to it. And just a dot there and a dot there. And finish off with this, and then we add some finishing touches as well. With the must-have gel pen set. And I knew the first card would take me a while. So doing a third card, I knew I would be pushing it. But this was so nice and leisurely that I really enjoyed myself. I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoyed myself. Uh, should I? What does it need? Oh, let's do it. We've got this orange sitting there. Let's just put it on there. That's exactly what it needed. For the life of me, I can't just stick to monochromes, can I? I love colors too much. I just love how that orange and purple look together. Just that hint of orange has just brought it to life somehow. What do you guys think? Should I have left it alone? I like it. And there you have it. There is the 2 cards that we made. I'll share this on my social media as well. And so just to repeat what I've shared today is we've used the Quaint Blooms stamp set with the matching die. And I have also used the dotted pinwheel stamp, which I have no idea where I put. I can't find it. I'm sure I'll see it in a second. I'm sure it's staring at me right. It's right under my nose, and I can't see it. It's the background stamp that I've used. It's got this gorgeous sentiment here as well. Here's to strong women. May we know them. May we be them. May we raise them. And I have also used the Autumn Festival watercolor brush markers, which you can also get the re-inkers off if you don't want to buy the brush markers. But let me just flip the camera around and just to see if there's any questions or comments. And here we go, and we're back. Lovely. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Just to show you here the 2 cards that I made. I just love how that embossing powder, just that rose gold embossing powder looks. Just absolutely lovely. It looks like foiling and it looks like hammered metal as well. It's really nice to use on embossing paste as well. Maybe the next live that I do, then we can do that as well. But everyone, thank you so much for joining and take care and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks. Bye.